Tuesday was the deadline for minor party candidates to file for a spot on Oregon's November ballot. The major parties picked their candidates back in the May primary, so we now have a full list of candidates for each office. We'll be covering the races for national and state level offices in Oregon, starting today with the presidential race. This is an election preview from Social Advance. I'm Alan Zundel. You already know that Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Joe Biden are candidates for the presidency. Oregon has 7 votes in the Electoral College, and whichever presidential candidate gets the most votes in Oregon will take all 7 of our votes in the Electoral College. Although it's not clear who will ultimately win the election nationally, there isn't much suspense about who will win Oregon's electoral votes. If we look at the last 3 presidential elections, all won by Democrats, the margin of victory was not small. It ranged from almost 11 percentage points in the 2016 election to over 15 percentage points in 2008. The last time the race was close here in Oregon was 16 years ago, when John Kerry defeated incumbent George W. Bush by just over 4 percentage points. In fact, the Democratic presidential candidate has won Oregon in the last 8 presidential elections. The last time a Republican won Oregon was when Ronald Reagan ran for his second term in 1984. But there is one unknown worth watching, and that will be the margin of victory this time around. Will the margin in favor of the Democratic candidate grow from 2016? Or will Donald Trump manage to narrow that margin? This will say something about the future of the Republican Party in Oregon. So far, there's not much sign of voters moving in that direction. Let's look at party registration numbers. As of July 2020, 35.5% of voters were registered as Democrats, and only 25% of voters were registered as Republicans, a difference of over 10 percentage points. While both of these parties have recorded declines in their share of the total electorate since 2016, Democrats slightly more than Republicans, the blue forces still maintain a significant advantage over the red. As a side note, the decline in registration for the 2 major parties is explained by the increase in non-affiliated voters. Nearly 40% of registered voters overall are not affiliated with either major party. Oregon's recent motor voter law has people automatically registered to vote when issuing driver's license, with a default of non-affiliated for all those who do not specify a party they prefer. So what are the options for voters who don't want to vote for Trump or Biden? Of Oregon's 6 state-recognized minor parties, 3 of them have nominated candidates for the presidency. Those 3 will appear on the Oregon ballot along with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. They are Libertarian Party candidate Joe Jorgensen, Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins, and Progressive Party candidate Dario Hunter. Since you probably haven't heard much about them, let's take a look at some campaign videos. Here's an edited ad from Joe Jorgensen of the Libertarian Party.
What I want to get rid of is the cult of the United States government and not have the government tell people what to do. I think most of us are adult enough to handle freedom. We've got to stop militarizing local police departments, so that has to be done immediately. Yeah, the IRS has got to go along with the income tax. And a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, how are we going to have a government? But they don't realize that only half of the revenue is generated through the income tax. So then the question is, well, where do we cut government? The first place I would cut it is from the military, not by getting rid of our defense, but by bringing our troops home and stop defending the rest of the world. With the 2 old parties, with the tired old ideas that aren't working, we don't have a choice. And everybody in America should have the choice to have an alternative to what we have now.
Jorgensen is a longtime Libertarian Party candidate activist. She was the party's vice presidential candidate in 1996 and its candidate for South Carolina's 4th Congressional District in 1992. She has a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology and has worked in computer systems and as a college lecturer. About 0.7% of Oregon voters are registered with the Libertarian Party. In 2016, their presidential candidate Gary Johnson received 4.71% of the vote in Oregon. Nationally, he won 3.28% of the popular vote. It will be interesting to see if Jorgensen can harness voter content with the two major parties and increase those numbers. It seems unlikely, though, as Johnson was a better-known candidate, having served as the Republican governor of New Mexico in the 1990s. He also had a larger national profile, having served as a Libertarian presidential candidate in the previous election of 2012. The Green Party, known in Oregon as the Pacific Green Party, has nominated Howie Hawkins of New York. Here's one of his ads, slightly edited.
Joe Biden opposes the progressive reforms that Bernie Sanders advocated. He said he would veto Medicare for all. So I'm inviting Bernie Sanders supporters to join our campaign tonight. We are going to keep fighting for these progressive reforms through the November election and beyond. The fight for a socialist transformation is more critical than ever now because we face this COVID-19 crisis. Voters are left with a miserable choice between the major party candidates: Donald Trump, the racist incompetent, and Joe Biden, the neoliberal hawk. To settle for Biden as the lesser evil is to join the opposition of the corporate establishment to Medicare for all, a full-strength Green New Deal, and an economic bill of rights to end poverty and economic despair. So here's what I'm asking you to do tonight. Go to howiehawkins.us, our campaign website, and join with us to continue the fight for socialist solutions through the November election and beyond. Let's keep the revolution alive. Let's fight for our future.
Hawkins is a longtime Green Party activist, having been one of the co-founders of the party in its earliest incarnation in 1984. Hawkins was also a union activist and worked for the United Parcel Service before retiring in 2016. Hawkins has run in New York as the Green Party candidate for the U.S. Senate, the governorship, and the U.S. House, as well as for local offices. 0.3% of Oregon voters are registered with the Pacific Green Party. In the 2016 presidential election, Green Party candidate Jill Stein received about 2.5% of the vote in Oregon. Nationally, she won a little over 1% of the popular vote. Hawkins is unlikely to do better than Stein did the last election for two reasons. First, he isn't as well known among the party's voters, as Stein was another two-time presidential candidate from a minor party, having run in 2012. Second, one of Hawkins' rivals for the Green Party presidential nomination is still running, now on the Oregon Progressive Party ballot line, and may split off some Green Party votes from Hawkins. That rival is Dario Hunter. The Oregon Progressive Party is not affiliated with any national party organization and so is relatively free to choose any candidate it wants. The party held its nomination via Zoom on Monday, August 24th. They had been considering nominating Hawkins, but Hunter asked for their nomination and the party decided to go with him instead. Hunter has alleged that the Hawkins campaign and party insiders rigged the Green Party primary process in favor of Hawkins. Here's an excerpt from a video he posted on YouTube.
It has been an eventful year and a half on the campaign trail for President of the United States. Together we have stood up for the lives and rights of Black people facing a genocide on our streets. Stood up for the survival of our planet through our green path forward, and stood up for the healing relief that all Americans need to weather this COVID-19 crisis through our comprehensive COVID-19 plan. Unfortunately, we've also been compelled to stand against the lack of election integrity on the part of the Green Party. Some thought that in the wake of a corrupt primary, we would eventually back away from the task of holding leadership in this country accountable for setting a fairer and greener agenda. They were wrong. We are still here and still strong.
0.1% of Oregon's voters are registered with the Oregon Progressive Party. In 2016, they cross-nominated Green Party candidate Jill Stein. So that is the state of democracy in Oregon. You have several choices for who to vote for in the presidential election, but the winner of our 7 electoral votes is pretty much foreordained. Voting for other candidates isn't likely to have much effect, and this isn't going to change until either the Republicans become more competitive in Oregon, one of the major parties breaks up and leaves room for another party to emerge as a major party, or we change our voting methods to something like proportional representation, ranked choice voting, or star voting. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and do something about it.